Yeah, man. Listen, bro. Trump, bro, you just a bit bullied, bro. Trump, bro, you just a nigga like, bro, you think, bro, bro, you racist. You think everybody's been into black people, like, but that's why you trying to go with the racist agenda. You feel me? They're like, bro, man, and then you like to pick on people. You feel me? And now you picked on the wrong people, and you were taking the wrong life. Bro, I don't know if this shit makes sense to you or how you think. Now, you know, money, I know how you thinking because God is hard in your heart. So no matter what anybody say, you are not going to listen. No matter what anybody the word say, your administration is not going to listen. They're going to do the opposite. God has had it hard in your heart, like He has hardened the Pharaoh's heart, and He has hardened the hearts of the Persians. Do you understand? You act like you are the king of Persia, like bro, you want to force Persia to do what you want to do to submit to you, so you could be like, ah ha 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 ha. I'm that I ain't right. Keep it white, yes. Okay. Now guess what? You got this on your head. I'm telling you, Donald Trump, do not think this shit is over. I'm telling you, don't think it's over. Because God have sat into those people's mind to kill you. You have a bounty on your head. Even if they say they've taken the bounty off, they have not. The Persians are not a merciful people. They are not a merciful people. Listen, bro, Donald Trump, I don't know how life work in your perfect racist American culture. That when you hate people and when you feel like you could do people any kind of way, you feel me? But in a foreign land, because I'm a foreigner, and I understand what they're doing. Hold on. Hey, bro. I don't care what they say. They just shot. There's a small missile, bro. The beef is not over. Y'all got a bounty on your head, bro. If all those people in Persia and Iran, and even might be more people that y'all don't even know about, but they just keeping the 80 million just to make it look like just Iran for right now. But they have more money than that. They have more people to give more money out than that just for your head and bring America down. I'm trying to tell you, but this is a decoy, man. I'm telling you. But this shit they talking about. I ran to this, but this shit they talking about. But I ran this, I ran that. I don't know if you can see it, but like this shit they talking about. Bro, this shit is crazy, bro. But they said U.S. military had a warning of lunch and sounded oh, they talking about just a warning. Man, yeah. Bro, man, in the United States, believe this shit, bro. That is dumb motherfucker. I'm sorry. In the United States, believe this shit. They are the dumbest motherfuckers in the world. If the United States believe that these people don't want it to escalate any further from that, why do they have a violence? They said they were going to take action and it's going to proportion. All right, the Americans go for it too. They don't believe it's. They don't believe it's in the whole grace of China and avoid war. If he had to retaliate, and now it seems they're saying that it depends right here. The President Trump just wants to get further action. Trump all this real. He talked all that tall shit and he came out there. All this real. I never thought a word of God was going to be happening like this, bro. This is the process of Jeremiah. This is not the process of Jeremiah's coming. No, this is not. And then, and the Son to reach in Revelation. What this shit? This is something different. This is funny, bro. The prophecy of the seals. The prophecy of the seven seals. Revelation. The line of the seven seals. About Zara Street. We will hear from the president tomorrow. Here's the challenge. His own words, he's on the record in the last 72 hours saying if Iran does anything, and Iran did something, he would fight back, retaliate, and push back. Those are his words in the last few days. That is I didn't understand. I'm sorry. Tougher punch if it wanted to. So they're trying to sort all this out. Was Iran doing this for domestic political purposes? Was Iran being very careful here? Can Iran be trusted? Your point was Fred just a moment ago about Zara Street. We will hear from the president tomorrow. Here's the challenge. His own words, he's on the record in the last 72 hours saying if Iran does anything, and Iran did something, he would fight back, he would push back. Those were his words in the last few days. But his instincts as a candidate and as that was all words. He said if Iran did something, they were pissed, and the words and dangerous ruling of 52 cents. Bro, Donald Trump is a bad shit talker, bro. I'm telling you, bro, that nigga talk shit, bro. It's not better than me, bro. Oh, man, that nigga talking shit, bro. That nigga talking so because he have the United States behind him. If he want the United States behind him, that nigga's a cow. See, he wasn't doing all this shit he talked right now before he was president. He wasn't doing this shit. Director of National Intelligence, Homeland Security Secretary. At this point, who really has? He wasn't doing this shit. Is it mainly? You didn't hear nothing there like him. And he was quiet, trying to act like he loved everybody. There is no question that from the early days of the Trump administration, the failure to fully staff up the government, and then the turnover Donald Trump is with an acting Homeland Security Secretary, for example, is not true. There's no good way to spin that. Although the acting Homeland Security Secretary will I told him, meet my demands, Mr. No, you gonna sign heaven over man, fuck inside the United States. Okay. So the administration. You want to bet that? You said you have power, right? Let me say power. The
flip side is, if you go back to the early days of the Trump administration, even the second year of the Trump administration, there's a lot of talk about inconsistency, backstabbing, and infighting among the top members of the national security team, the very top members. Now you hear with the new National Security Advisor O'Brien, Secretary of State Pompeo, his deputy is now his former deputy at the CIA, Gina Haspel, the CIA director. Mark Esper, the new defense secretary, General Miles, the relatively new chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. What you do here, people at home might not agree with their decisions. Some people watching, but what you hear from all quarters, members of Congress, people inside those different agencies, is that there is much more cooperation, coordination, continuity, and effective management of the national security team at the top. That doesn't mean you don't have some issues when you don't have the work reviews in the second, third, and fourth layers of government. But at the top, think about the Rex Tillerson days, think about the Jim Mattis days, much less infighting of the people who are closest to the president. And to your point about who has his ear, there's no question that Mike Pompeo has been a driving force in the Iran policy in recent weeks and months.
People be like, but I'm gonna do something that. Oh, no, okay.
Respond. Also, had a lot of work that where say there are mixed feelings forces right now that their commander-in-chief.
Bro, my nigga, you understand what I don't understand about the Bible, bro? And if you understand what you're saying, bro, and if you had the spiritual eye I had, bro, you'll see why this shit is fun as hell, bro. Bro, that's bro, that nigga Donald Trump says, bro. Trump said, well, you do everything with respect and tolerance and with strong. Oh, man. Bro, that ain't been hell, bro. Bro, that shit been hell, bro.
Hide my bladder leak pad, like the old tunic tuck. You know it, right? But I don't have to with Always Discreet. I couldn't believe the difference.
That shit's been hell.
It's less bulky, and it really protects. Watch this. The super absorbent core turns liquid and odor to gel and locks it away. So I have nothing to hide. Always Discreet for bladder leaks.
I'm having very serious second thoughts. Is it too late? Howard, where's the money right now?
I'm gonna get into the city.
Have fun.
There's a girl living in your apartment. Are you serious right now?
It means nothing. You can punch me if you want.
Oh, how am I supposed to give that to your son?
Uncut jabs, sweetheart.
Oh, I gotta say, I need a break. And I've been thinking about the weekend. I've been dreaming about it all day. I get it all, everybody say, oh, my.
I'm not picking it up. You pick it up.
I'm not picking it up.
I'll pick it up. They're clean, cuz. My hand is clean. Oh, yeah, I'm Charmin clean.
Charmin Ultra Strong just cleans better. Enjoy to go with Charmin. Beautiful, isn't it? Just wait till you get to the register. Discover lower prices on produce. Attaboy.
Newsflash, people are different.
Yep.
So we should have different plans to lose weight. Introducing new personal plans from Nutrisystem. Triple match to your goals, your body type, and your food preferences. Food's delivered to my door. Simple. With Nutrisystem, you'll lose weight and learn to keep it off.
Get your personal plan and lose up to 18 pounds in your first 2 months. Money back guarantee. Act now. Buy 1 month, get 1 free. Go online or call 888-609-FIT9.
Think you need to pay prestige prices for better skin results? Try Olay Regenerist. The rich hydrating cream is formulated with vitamin B3 and peptides to plump skin cells, brighten, and visibly smooth wrinkles. In fact, just 1 jar has the hydrating power of 5 jars of the prestige cream. For visible results without prestige prices, try Olay Regenerist with a money-back guarantee. And complete your routine with the Olay Eye Collection. Brand power helping you buy better.
I'm here at home with Officers Martinez and Endicott. They're here because my Simply Safe security camera captured an uninvited guest.
Simply Safe monitoring pros use the video to have a little chat with police. The officers tell me that video verification helps them get there up to 3.5 times faster, which seems very quick. Doesn't that seem quick, Larry? Yes, very quick. It's a tip from an expert. Get Simply Safe, protect home like a pro.
And now you can save like a pro too. Go to simplysafe.com for a limited time holiday offer.
President Trump says he'll be making a statement tomorrow morning about tonight's missile strikes. We did not use the kind of, or he did not use the kind of bellicose tone that he has in earlier statements and tweets. Instead, as we showed you at the top of the broadcast, he sent out a tweet starting the words, quote, all is well. Well, it certainly is a good thing that no American, Iraqi, or coalition forces were, as far as we know, hurt or killed in the attacks. There's been conflicting reporting on some Iraqi forces, but we're waiting to see official statements on that from Iraq and from the United States. It also remains to be seen whether all truly is well and what happens next. Perspective now for someone who served in Iraq and currently serves in Congress in the House Armed Services Committee, Massachusetts Democrat Congressman Seth Moulton. Congressman, thanks for being with us. Just as a Iraq War veteran yourself, just wanted to get your initial reaction to what's happened tonight.
Well, first of all, I'll just say, Anderson, that I remember what it was like to be in the desert in Kuwait on the brink of war with Iraq. And
man, they say
later to learn how hard it was on my
you
parents
what did, my nigga.
back here at home.
Them niggas are the
On
stupidest
the
motherfuckers in
brink
the
of a
world.
war that could be far more devastating for our troops, for our American families. I'm thinking of that tonight. And I'll tell you
Them
what,
niggas are the stupidest niggas in the world.
Around in Iraq, I fought Iranian proxies in Iraq, and as someone who's been willing to fight them, and frankly is willing to go
I
fight
told you troops don't get
right
attacked.
now, this war is not necessary right now. It is
So
not
you
in our
just
strategic
told
interest
that
to
niggas
war.
thought I was
We got to
bullshit.
talk about how we prevent that from happening.
So you thought I was
The first thing
bullshit.
is we got to stop this escalation. Take the opportunity.
Those bastards be telling you because I didn't say it in the name of Jesus. I'm funk. Okay, keep believing that shit.
Bogged down in a war with Iran. The second, we've got to rebuild our
Keep believing that shit.
before it's too late, because they do provide a very important base for us in the Middle East to continue the fight.
Keep believing that shit.
We got a lot of work.
Keep believing on falls,
our relationship with our allies to get Iran back in the nuclear deal to stop them from.
I'm recording this shit too.
So those are some of the steps
I'm
that
so
we start to think about tonight. But the first thing is to prevent outright war from breaking out. We're clearly on the path to war.
I'm not going to put it on this channel.
It's time to find an exit.
I'm going to put it on other channels too.
In the way that
On the
Iran
YouTube
chose
channel.
to strike ballistic missiles clearly coming from Iran, it's claiming
On the
responsibility
YouTube
right
channel.
away, just as the U.S. did for the killing of Soleimani.
I made a couple more YouTube
In terms
channels.
of the targets that they picked, how they went about this, you see an opportunity for de-escalation. That this was, they said, there's one statement from Iranian officials saying, this was a proportional response, and it's concluded. That's a signal, you think?
I think it is. I mean, I don't know any American besides from maybe like Pompeo who truly want to go to war with Iran. I don't think that most of the Iranian people relish a war, an outright war with the United States. But we've gotten ourselves into a box here with a president who's promised to start this war if he thinks it's necessary. He's already escalated things dramatically, much more so than any other president, certainly in my lifetime, with Iran. And of course, the reaction to killing Soleimani in Iran was to unite everybody behind him and behind the hardliners, exactly the people that we don't want to empower. I mean, if you step back for a second, just a week ago, there were mass protests in Iran against people like Soleimani. They had a real problem on their hands after his security forces killed hundreds of Iranian citizens. And at the same time, there were protests in Iraq against the Iranian presence. Both of those things were in our interest. Those were helpful developments. Well, the president's strike has reversed all of that progress because now Soleimani is a martyr. He's a hero back at home. Iraq is now in Iran's pocket, not in ours. They're trying to kick American troops out of Iran, they're trying to kick American troops out of Iraq, not protest Iran's presence. So we've really taken some serious steps backwards, and we've got to reverse course, because ultimately what the president has done is not in the national security interest of the country. As bad as Soleimani is, he's a bad guy. He's killed America. He's got American blood on his hands. We all know that. But this was not smart.
It just the very thing that Soleimani and his cronies in Iran wanted from the beginning has been
My process
the
is coming to pass.
getting out of Iraq so that they have unfettered access to it and dominance of it.
My process is coming to
The
pass.
very idea that might actually result from what's happened is.
But they see more, but they don't get deeper.
Well, Soleimani himself has literally been fighting to achieve this goal of getting America out of Iraq for the last.
See, by the time this year turn up,
15 years.
and then next year,
that his death might actually achieve.
Next year really gonna be crazy. Especially after July the 21st.
Think about this for a second from the administration's perspective, because they've been very clear about what they want to achieve with their Iran policy. The first thing they say is to deter regional aggression, to stop Iran from attacking us and our allies. Of course, they've done the exact opposite. They've escalated that aggression. And number two, they say they want to prevent Iran from developing a nuclear weapon. Well, Iran has restarted its nuclear program in full because of the president's strike. And number three, they say they want to bring Iran to the negotiating table. Well, I'll tell you what, Iran's never been farther away from the negotiating table in my lifetime, thanks to the president's action. So even if you just take the administration's strategy at face value, they're failing miserably.
Well, Congressman Sickle, I appreciate your time tonight. See what happens in the morning, also from what the White House says, what the president says. Thank you. The sun is up in Baghdad now after a very tense night. We'll talk to our Damon, who is there next.
The wait is over. T-Mobile is lighting up 5G.
Yeah, man. But this shit is so funny, bro.
T-Mobile 5G goes live.
If y'all niggas can see, bro.
To the small town.
Bro, if y'all niggas can see, bro. If y'all niggas, bro, can see what really popping, bro. Like, y'all niggas understood what was really popping, bro. You'll be like, what the fuck?
More pre-portioned ingredients delivered. Less kitchen chaos.
You'll be like, what the fuck?
Dinner that comes with less and gets so much more. The future of dinner is here. Use code TV10 for 10 free meals during our New Year's sale.
Let's go get lost. So we can be
Plan your adventure now at AtlantisBahamas.com.
Hi, I'm Steve. My ultimate goal for my condition is to put it on the back burner and not have to think about it. And Roman allows me to do that. It was really encouraging to be able to complete the online consultation and get my medication to my door before I was even able to go to a sit down at the clinic that I had an appointment with. It doesn't have to be so difficult to find the care and resources that you need. If I had found Roman earlier, it would have made things so much easier.
In 3 days. The last Lawrence was talking just as big as you.
Are you different?
I'm not going to stop. Just Mercy. Rated PG-13.
What are you waiting for? February 28th, Publishers Clearinghouse could surprise you with $5 grand a week for your life. Then after that, someone you choose gets $5 grand a week for their life. Don't miss your last chance to win. Hurry, enter now at VCH.com.
Feeling sluggish or weighed down can be a sign your digestive system isn't working at its best. Taking Metamucil every day can help. Its psyllium fiber forms a gel that traps and removes the waste that weighs you down. It also helps lower cholesterol and
y'all remember I said it first before anybody started saying they started dating. Like, but y'all remember I was the first, the only one that was saying it before anybody started saying, oh man, we knew this or we said that. You feel me? Y'all remember I was the first one to remember this stuff.
Almost like you're training me to become an even smarter, stronger investor.
You feel me?
80s style training montage?
Yeah.
Happens all the time.
The last debate before the first vote is only on CNN.
The top Democrats, live from Iowa. The CNN Democratic Presidential Debate in partnership with the Des Moines Register. Next Tuesday at 9, only on CNN.
Some people say dress your age. That's ridiculous. Age is just an illusion. How you show up for the world, that's what's real. What's your idea? I put it out there with the GoDaddy website. When your skin is feeling dry and crinkly, time for Gold Bond Healing Lotion. Penetrates 10 surface layers deep with 7 moisturizers, 3 vitamins. Skin is nourished, healed, healthy looking. Gold Bond Healing. Ultimate lotion, ultimate skin.
It must be Steven's phone.
Now you can take control of your home Wi-Fi and get a notification the instant someone new joins your network. Only with Xfinity X5. Download the X5 app today.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
The afternoon began with President Trump saying that now is not the time to pull troops out of Iraq. He also threatened to impose sanctions on Baghdad, our ally, if the Iraqis did not treat the U.S. fairly. The afternoon ended with Iranian missiles falling on Iraq 2 bases, and the evening ends here with President Trump tweeting that all is well. A new day has begun in Baghdad. Our Damon is there now. What is the latest you're hearing about the attacks and how it's being received in Iraq?
Well, Anderson, at this stage, still trying to piece together a lot of information. We had earlier, just after these strikes took place, spoken to an Iraqi security source who
Trump says all is well.
That there were casualties among the
Iraqis. See that? Those are strikes.
Base, although exactly how many or if there were killed was unclear. Now we're hearing from 2 other sources that there were no casualties. We still have not heard, though, anything officially coming out from the Iraqi government or from the Iraqi military. Presumably, they too are trying to figure out exactly what happened, what was damaged, if there were any casualties, and then what their response should be. Because this is not, at the end of the day, just a military response that we're talking about. It's a military confrontation that's unfolding.
p.m. today.
In the middle of all of this,
from January the 7th, 2020.
Very political as well.
And these 2 bases, how significant are they? Also, just the location. One's in Erbil.
Yeah, one base is in Erbil, which is in the semi-autonomous Kurdish region of Iraq, and that part of Iraq was always sort of considered the other Iraq. It was spared much of the violence that had plagued the rest of the country. The base there is very close to the airport. The other location that was targeted is the Al Asad Air Base, this massive, sprawling base in Al-Anbar province that was once the heart of the Sunni insurgency. Both of these locations very key, central to the U.S. military's operations, both in Iraq and Syria. Remember, the U.S. has temporarily suspended its anti-ISIS operation, suspended its training of the Iraqi security forces, but both of these locations most certainly very central to that effort.
All right, Barbara Damon, be careful. Thank you. As Qasem Soleimani's remains were brought back to his place of origin in Iran. The question of what comes next, of course, remains uppermost. Just ahead, I'll talk to 2 veteran journalists with incredibly extensive knowledge of the region, one of whom was held captive in Iran, to get their take on the next hours and days.
I've always been running to meetings, errands. Now I'm running for me. I've always dreamed of seeing the world, but I'm not chasing the dream anymore. I made a financial plan to live it every day.
At Northwestern Mutual, our version of financial planning helps you live your dreams today. Find a Northwestern Mutual advisor at nm.com.
Competing in today's business climate is challenging. Your customers expect speed and convenience. Tackle is a revolutionary new app that connects you with over 70,000 background check providers who are ready to help you make your company more productive. Businesses use Tackle for same-day installation of all all types of products. The Tackle app also includes functionality for photo documentation. To find out how Tackle can make your business more efficient and profitable, visit tackle.com/partnerships.
To predict the weather could save thousands of lives. I need you to fly us higher than anyone has ever been.
So it begins.
The Aerodynamics, rated PG-13, now streaming.
I'm finding it hard to stay on top of things.
A faster laptop could help. Plus, tech support to stay worry-free.
Worry-free. Boom.
This week, buy one, get one 30% off HP and get Office Depot Office Max and OfficeDepot.com.
Banking with Chime is very easy. I feel like I can finally trust my bank. There are no monthly fees. Get paid early. I always have peace of mind that my money is in the right place and in good hands.
Start banking with Chime today at Chime.com. Sail beyond with Celebrity Cruises. Beyond expected. Beyond luxury. For a limited time, enjoy savings of up to $800 and free drinks during Celebrity Cruises Sail Beyond event.
Could switching to Geico really save you 15% or more on car insurance? The woodchucks chuck wood. Hey, you dang woodchucks! Quit chucking my wood!
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
NyQuil Severe gives you powerful relief for your worst cold and flu symptoms. On Sunday night and every night. NyQuil Severe, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, best sleep with a cold medicine.
The last debate before the first vote is only on CNN. The top Democrats, live from Iowa. The CNN Democratic Presidential Debate in partnership with the Des Moines Register. Next Tuesday at 9, only on CNN.
After a serious wreck, everything adds up. Your bills, medical expenses, car repairs.
What doesn't add up? That tiny check the insurance company hopes you'll pay.
Weak offers? Call the Strong Arm. Attorney John Boy and Associates.
The insurance company knows you can't work and can't pay your bills, and they just don't care. Call me right now and let me put over 20 years of winning to work for you. My experience pays, and so will the insurance company.
Goldie, the world's first apple cider vinegar gummies make being healthy simple.
Goldie makes weight loss simple.
All day energy simple.
Sir, with some cake?
No thank you. Cutting cravings simple.
And it's simply delicious. Healthy doesn't have to taste bad. In fact, with Goldie, it's actually delicious.
Visit goldie.com/TV to get 10% off plus free shipping.
I'm Fred Pleitgen in Tehran, Iran, and this is CNN.
In quite a night as we learn more about what happened in Iraq tonight. We wait for the next developments, of course. Here to help sort through it all, Dexter Filkins, the New Yorker, has reported extensively on the region for years. The Washington's opinion writer and CNN global affairs analyst Jason Rezaian, who was the Post's Tehran bureau chief until his arrest and imprisonment back in 2014. He writes about his ordeal in his book, Prisoner, My 544 Days in the Iranian Prison. Dexter, you said when we talked earlier in the 8 o'clock hour, you said that you thought this was the strike. When you look at it, when you look at the weapons used, the targets, the other options that they had at their disposal that were not used, that this was in large part for political domestic reasons in Iran. Do you still feel that way?
Yeah, I mean we're reading tea leaves,
right.
So we're speculating a bit, but the tea leaves we have suggest that this was done. It's kind of theater, and it was done for the Iranian people. And look, we hit him back. We took action. We killed some people. We've restored our pride. And now it looks, the indications are, if you look at the statement that Javed Zarif, the foreign minister, just gave, he looks like he's heading for the offering.
He does. As you know, things can always change. I mean, I think you think back to Hurricane Katrina, you know, all the headlines, you know, of New Orleans dodged the bullet, dodged the storm, and then the levees broke next, you know, later on. You know, totally different situation, but you never know what's going to happen 12 hours from now.
Yeah, I think, you know, I don't think the Iranians are going to stop. I think that their ultimate goal, or if not their short-term goal, the medium goal is to get the Americans out of Iraq. They're certainly going to keep working on that. And if that works, probably out of Afghanistan as well. They have a lot of influence in both of those places. Yeah, so I think if even if the shooting stops, there's going to be a lot of conflict.
Jason, I mean, you have firsthand knowledge of how the Iranian regime tries to leverage geopolitical flashpoints. And you said tonight was a measured response designed to draw a line. Can you kind of explain that?
Yeah, I mean, I really agree with what Dexter just explained. I think that there was a possibility that Iran could have done a lot more. They have the know-how and the lay of the land in that part of Iraq to inflict a lot more damage. But, you know, they had to do something. It's not about placating the Iranian people. It's more about showing the Iranian people that they're capable of responding. If you remember, it was just 6 weeks ago that there was massive protests throughout Iran. We can expect more of that in the future. And if they just kind of laid down and took this, it would have shown great weakness on their part. Ultimately, I also think that President Trump isn't really looking for a larger conflict with Iran, although I think his top advisors, certainly Secretary of State Pompeo and others at the State Department are. But, you know, for the moment, it seems like, you know, the president's got the cooler head. I know that's not always the case, but it seems to be that way tonight.
How much, Dexter, do you think it depends on the after-action reports, no U.S. casualties, how the Iraqis view, you know, any Iraqi casualties, if any?
Well, we don't know what the intentions of the Iranians were, but if in fact they didn't kill any Americans, you know, then we all got lucky. I don't if those missiles that went into those two bases, if they had killed Americans, I think we'd be having a different conversation. I think the pressure would be that much greater on the president to respond.
Yeah, and there's been no official statement either from the U.S. or from Iraq about any wounded, any casualties, of the like. Jason, what about the Iranian people? I mean, it's hard to, from this vantage point, to sort of say what their reaction is, what people, you know, think privately, how people demonstrate publicly.
I think we always have to remind ourselves that no country is a monolith, even if they're led by authoritarians the way Iran is. You know, there is a small cadre of people, a small percentage of people that are hardcore loyalists to the regime, and there's a small percentage of the people who want nothing more than to see the end of the regime very quickly by any means necessary. And then there's the vast majority of people who you know, may have feelings one way or the other, but aren't necessarily looking to get overly involved. And the role that General Soleimani played in this context for Iranians was that of somebody who was able to keep some sense of security within Iranian borders, while the rest of the region was you know, on fire in all the countries around Iran, and often at the hands of the IRGC and the Quds forces that he commanded. Iran was pretty immune from that sort of attack on its soil for years. So there's some anger there. And there's also, as you well know, a love and pride of country. It's a nation that charts its history back thousands of years. And so any attack is going to elicit a very emotional response. Ultimately, though, I don't think we can say that the people are rallying around the flag in the way that some people have implied. But there is a response that you want to defend your homeland. That's natural.
Yeah. Dexter, just in terms of you know, Iraq's parliament has voted to expel U.S. forces. What does that actually mean in Iraq? I mean, there's still the cabinet to discuss this. They don't have the final say.
No, and in fact, I mean, the Prime Minister, Adel Abdul-Mahdi, pro-Western guy, I can't imagine wants the Americans to leave. He announced his resignation over a month ago, and he's still there. So it's like it's really hard to know. I mean, I think we should take no statement as definitive. And my sense is that Prime Minister doesn't want this. He doesn't want the Americans to leave because then he's powerless against the Iranians. And then he's totally vulnerable. And so they need the Americans to basically be a bulwark against the.
And traditionally, that was part of U.S. policy. It wasn't just to fight ISIS.
That's
it was also
what they
to be a
say.
bulwark against Iran in the region.
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the many ironies of the American invasion of Iraq is we spent trillions of dollars and lost several thousand lives, but the people that emerged with the greatest influence there at the end were the Iranians.
Dr. Fulkins, thank you. Jason Ryan, appreciate it. Thank you so much. Up next, I'll talk with the senator who was wounded on the Iraq battlefield and got her reaction to tonight's missile attack.
It's important to have a reliable network. We all use it in different ways.
Everyone in your family is different.
Someone's streaming sports, someone's video chatting her friend. Hi, Gianna.
That's why Verizon has plans to mix and match starting at just $35. And one of our best phones when you buy one. The network more people rely on gives you more.
Before HelloFresh, the only thing I knew how to make was tater tots. This is something that we actually could do. Even someone like me can nail it.
I love being able to come home and just do it real quick.
It's 2020. The future of dinner is here. Use code TV10 for 10 free meals during our New Year's sale.
Apps are used everywhere except work. Why is that? Is it because people love filling out forms? Maybe they like checking with their supervisor to see how much vacation time they have. Or sending corporate their expense reports. I'll let you in on a little secret. They don't. By empowering employees to manage their own tasks, Paycom frees you to focus on the business of business. To learn more, visit paycom.com.
I am totally blind. And non-24 can make me show up too early or too late, or make me feel like I'm not really there. Talk to your doctor and call 844-234-2424.
What if there was something that can reduce body fat, boost mood, get rid of wrinkles, tighten saggy skin, and make you look and feel decades, not years, but decades younger? Interested?
Vital, available at Ulta and smarter retailers nationwide.
In 2015, we took a surf trip to Bali, Indonesia, and saw firsthand just how bad the world's plastic pollution crisis really is. We started cleaning the ocean by ourselves until 2017, when we started our ocean cleanup company, 4Ocean. And to date, we've removed over 2 million pounds of trash from the ocean. All of our cleanup efforts are funded entirely through the sale of our bracelet. Every bracelet purchase helps fund the removal of 1 pound of trash from the ocean and supports the 4Ocean cleanup movement. So visit 4ocean.com today to become part of the solution.
Before we talk about tax smart investing, what's new? Audrey's expecting.
Twins.
We're getting closer to the twins.
Change in plans.
At Fidelity, a change of plans is always part of the plan.
To be honest, household dust never bothered me until I found out what it actually was. Dust like droppings, dead skin cells, gross. So now I grab my Swiffer sweeper and heavy duty duster. Duster extends to 3 feet to get all that gross stuff. Gotcha. And for that nasty dust on my floors, my sweeper's on it. The textured cloths grab and hold dirt and hair no matter where dust bunnies hide. No more DDG. Glad I stopped cleaning and started swippering.
When you have something you love, you want to protect it. At LegalZoom, our network of attorneys can help you every step of the way with an estate plan including wills, will, and trusts that grows along with you and your family. LegalZoom, where life meets legal.
Sleep this amazing? That's Ezekiel Pure Z Sleep. Our liquid has a unique botanical blend, while an optimal melatonin level means no next day grogginess. Ezekiel Pure Z's naturally superior sleep.
Oh, gross.
Hi. How does it know where we're going?
Yeah, that's her.
How to find out she was my great-great-grandma?
Good learner.
I think I learned sprinkles. How did they do that? Wow! How did you find your new house?
February 28th, Publishers Clearinghouse could surprise you with this $5 grand a week for your life. Then after that, someone you choose gets $5 grand a week for their life. Hurry, last chance to win. Enter now at PCH.com.
People were afraid I was contagious. I felt gross.
It was kind of a shock after I started Cosentyx.
4 years clear.
Real people with psoriasis look and feel better with Cosentyx. Don't use it if you're allergic to Cosentyx. Before starting, get checked for tuberculosis. An increased risk of infections and lowered ability to fight them may occur. Tell your doctor about an infection or symptoms. If your inflammatory bowel disease symptoms develop or worsen, or if you've had a vaccine or plan to, serious allergic reactions may occur. Ask your dermatologist about Cosentyx.
Illinois Senator Tammy Duckworth certainly knows the price Americans pay in service to their country during wartime. She was critically wounded on the battlefield in Iraq. I spoke with her shortly before airtime to get her reactions to tonight's Iranian attack. Senator, you're a veteran of the Iraq War. I'm wondering what you make of the missile strike by Iran tonight.
Well, actually, Anderson, not only am I a veteran of the war, I have flown into Al Asad Air Base in a Black Hawk myself. So it's a fairly sprawling base. Look, they had to do something, and I know that, I was expecting the Iranians to make some sort of an effort. They have to do it for the Iranian street, in order to maintain their legitimacy with their people. Right now, I'm waiting to see if there are any casualties. So far, I haven't heard if there are any. But I was expecting this. As soon as I heard that the president ordered the killing and the general, I knew that what he had done was made America less safe.
That's how you see that this is a move by the Iranian regime essentially for domestic politics at home in Iran? Because if it is, then there's a chance of de-escalation from this point.
I think there is a chance of de-escalation. Now the question is, do we have the people, the competence here on our side in the White House to work towards de-escalation? I don't know. I mean, this president ordered this killing without actually planning for any of the consequences and has so badly handled the next steps. What do you do after you kill the man? That I don't even have any confidence that they can handle a de-escalation at this point.
Senator Lindsey Graham said tonight on another network, and I'm quoting, "If you're watching television in Iran, I just got off the phone to the president. Your fate is in your own hands in terms of the regime's economic viability. You continue this crap, you're going to wake up one day out of the oil business." I'm wondering how you interpret that.
Yeah, I think what this situation needs is a lot less chest thumping and actual diplomacy to be put into place. My focus is on the security of the American people, of our troops who are overseas, on our national security. And frankly, riling up Iran and their proxies and all of the terrorist groups that look to Iran for leadership does not make America more safe. If anything, it risks our national security. And so all of us here who are in Washington owe it to do our jobs and to actually try to protect American people. And then thumping your chest and making these statements, frankly, is amateur hour.
How do you think the U.S. should respond to this?
I think we need to have a measured response. First and foremost, I want to know what the administration's plan is. So they killed this general. Now, what are they going to do? They've shown in the last several days that they have no plans for handling the aftermath. What are they going to do next? They couldn't even stop a letter from the Department of Defense over to the Iraqi parliament to say that, hey, we're going to pull our troops out. They didn't even know they were doing that. You've got a general in the field doing something while the people in the Pentagon are doing something else. I want to see some sort of cohesiveness coming out of this administration, and frankly, I haven't seen it so far.
The White House has said, well, the president has said in the past, he's open to talk without conditions. It's not clear to me exactly what the U.S. policy is right now in terms of what this administration wants from Iran.
I don't think it's clear at all, Anderson, and I don't think they have an idea because I think there are many factions within the administration so far, and I think that a lot of this has to do with the president's absolute lack of impulse control when he makes these decisions. I think that he thought that, he got good press from the al-Baghdadi raid, and if he thinks that maybe doing something like this is going to give him some positive coverage, well, you know what, it didn't work out, and he made America less safe. In fact, what he's achieved is to give Iraq everything they want in the end. They want less American influence. They want America out of Iraq. They wanted to turn the tide of protests against Iran, which happened all summer long in Iraq and all throughout the Middle East, and turn it into a protest against America. So they've done that. I don't think they wanted their general killed, and I certainly don't shed a tear for this man. But at the end of the day, the Iranian regime got what they want, which is greater influence in the Middle East and less American presence.
The president tweeted tonight, quoting, "All is well. Missiles launched from Iran at 2 military bases located in Iraq. Assessment of casualties and damages taking place now. So far, so good. We have the most powerful and well-equipped military anywhere in the world by far. I will be making a statement tomorrow morning." Is all well, do you think?
All is not well. I think that we need to be very much on alert for threats to Americans' assets, American troops, American personnel, and even Americans who are traveling around the world right now. Remember that a lot of these groups that the Iranians are supporting are not directly controlled by Iran. So we have no idea if some group that is funded by Iran might not actually target Americans in terrorist acts throughout the Middle East. So American national security right now is in a worse shape than it was before the president launched this attack.
Senator Duckworth, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back. More ahead.
Beautiful, isn't it? Just wait till you get to the register. Discover lower prices on produce. Attaboy.
Now that I'm banking with Chime, I get paid up to 2 days early with direct deposit.
Wow, I wish I was banking with Chime.
Aw, thanks.
Get paid up to 2 days early. Start banking at Chime.com.
It's Jessie James Stacker, and I've got some big news. There's a new South Beach diet, and it's keto friendly. It's a low carb, healthy fat approach that's easy to follow. It's life friendly, and a healthy way to lose weight based on the best parts of keto.
It's a plan that burns fat and transforms your metabolism.
Try the new South Beach diet today. Come on, y'all, start now.
For a limited time, save 50% on every plan, plus get a free week of shakes.
Go online or call 877-817-PAUSE to save 50%. In 3 days, see why audiences love Just Mercy, giving it an A+ cinema score.
You don't know what you've been to now. I'm gonna need another log in case they take your eyeballs like that.
Just Mercy, rated PG-13.
Oh, I gotta say, I need a break, and I've been thinking about the weekend. I've been dreaming about it all day. I get it all, I get it all. Everybody say, oh my mind, oh my mind, oh my mind.
It's a 13-hour flight. That's not a weekend trip.
15 minutes really far.
You downloaded the TD Ameritrade mobile app so you can quickly check the markets?
Yeah, actually, I'm taking one last look at my dashboard before we board.
Excellent. And you have Thinkorswim Mobile?
So I can finish analyzing the risk on this position.
You two are all set. Have a great flight. Thanks. We'll see ya. They're getting so smart.
Choose the app that fits your investing style.
Step into the open wide. Watch the future come alive. Meet the first ever Mazda CX-50. Feel alive.
The last debate before the first vote is only on CNN. The top Democrats live from Iowa. The CNN Democratic Presidential Debate in partnership with the Des Moines Register next Tuesday at 9 only on CNN. You ready?
You're welcome, America.
Xfinity X1, the ultimate destination for movie lovers. New releases and old favorites to rent, buy, or watch for free. All controlled by your voice.
Goldie, the world's first apple cider vinegar gummies make being healthy simple.
Goldie makes weight loss simple.
All day energy. Simple.
Jim, with some cake?
No, thank you. Cutting cravings? Simple.
And it's simply delicious. Healthy doesn't have to taste bad. In fact, with Goldie, it's actually delicious.
Visit goldie.com/TV to get 10% off plus free shipping.
The Situation Room with Wolf Blitzer. Tomorrow at 5 Eastern on CNN.
Closed captioning is brought to you by Keto Logic. Kickstart your weight loss journey with the Keto 30 Challenge.
It's not too late to start your New Year's resolution and feel better. Start your keto journey today with Keto Logic's Keto 30 Challenge. Our breaking news coverage continues. I want to turn it over to Chris for another edition of Global Crime. Chris?
All right, thank you very much, Anderson. I'm Chris Cuomo. It's midnight in the East, but now daylight in the Middle East, where our military can get a clear view of the damage from Iran's retaliatory strikes on 2 bases that house U.S. forces in Iraq. The early good word from the Pentagon and this president is that there is no word of any U.S. casualties, and we now know a big reason why. There was early warning to the U.S. troops that an attack was coming. Now, how about hope for de-escalation? There's been language from this president and from a high official in Iran that gives the possibility of just that. So let's get into this special edition of Prime Time.
This is CNN Breaking News.
All right, the latest word, a U.S. military official tells CNN troops that they did have enough early warning of the ballistic missile launches that you're seeing on the other part of the screen to sound alarms at the El Assad and Erbil bases in Iraq. So, what does that mean? Well, it means that those in harm's way were able to get to bunkers, get to safety, and hunker down. If true, and all are safe, that is a true blessing and also the best indication that this situation may not escalate. The President of the United States tweeted a few hours ago, quote, "All is well. So far, so good." Now, that is an interesting characterization of being bombed in 2 different bases, but the ultimate analysis is, were there casualties? Was there loss? Was there clear reason for another step toward escalation? Now, the problem here is the president's practicality going forward versus his tweets in the past. He laid out a red line that Iran clearly crossed with its bombing. Is that the point of action? So far, it isn't. The president says he'll be making a statement Wednesday morning. We wait them. Now, Iran has put out its own statement via its foreign minister, who tweeted, his country took proportionate measures in self-defense. Here's the important part. Does not seek escalation or war, but will defend against any aggression. We have global team coverage, of course. So let's begin in Washington with CNN White House correspondent Jeremy Diamond. Jeremy, now late, obviously, on the East Coast.
Little things like that's the important point. They don't want one.
Well, that tweet from the president, Chris, that you just mentioned, is what we're hearing from the White House tonight.
Yeah, like I said,
latest word that we're getting. All
believe
is
what
well.
you want,
So
man.
far, so good. Far from the
Believe
fiery
what you
brimstone
want.
that we were hearing from the president just a
There's
couple of
already
days
war
ago.
against
As the United
you.
States
Y'all have
waited
an
to see
$80 million
how Iran would retaliate. Now that we know
on y'all.
how they have indeed retaliated with these
I have
ballistic missiles fired at Iraqi
So
bases
you can
and
lie all you want to.
U.S. troops in Iraq.
You can still tell yourself all those lies you want to.
Cautiously
I have
optimistic
evidence
tone,
of this.
it appears, Chris, and making very clear that the thing that he has his eye on
No, I have
overnight,
evidence
is
of
prepared
this.
to see whether or not the president of the United States is going to respond
You
with
see?
his own military
See
response.
this?
Is this civilian,
You have
this
an
casualty,
$80
that is
million
what the president is keeping his eye on. He says this
bounty
week,
on your
assessment
head.
of casualties and damages taking
You feel
place
me?
now. So far, so good. But as you mentioned, Chris, the president had set this red line just a couple of days ago, and clearly that red
You
line
feel
has
me?
been crossed.
You have
Remember,
$80
the president
million
did not just talk about
bill on your head.
attacks that would kill American
So,
troops. He talked about attacks on U.S.
so lie you want
as
to.
well. And if an Iraqi
Lie you say what you want to,
on
Donald
American
Trump.
troops is not a U.S.
Lie
interest,
you say what you
then
want.
I'm not sure what else would.
Lie
But
to
hopefully,
yourself all you want to. You not lying to me. See, y'all. See, listen, man. Listen, people. Stop thinking if you lie or act stupid, you hurting me. You are lying to yourself. You're not hurting me. You're only hurting yourself.
This is not necessarily a move that was designed to create the maximum
Because you
amount
could
of
tell all the
American
lies
casualties.
and
Now, I
pretend
don't
all
know the
you
exact
want
layout
to.
of Al Assad Air Base, but normally
But
an American base
this is the time
typically,
you cannot
at this
pretend
time
no
of
more.
night, you expect troops to often be sleeping in large numbers in a tent.
That's what you're going to be
That
talking
be
about.
surrounded by
The whole
concrete
city,
T-walls
the
to protect
news.
them from a blast in the event they didn't get the
What?
early warning sirens. They
But like
got
I said, look,
something like
bro.
this. So
I
let's
don't
get
want
a
to argue with
direct
nobody.
hit upon
Just
the actual
like what?
sleeping facilities where troops are. You're not going to get that many casualties. And as we know, Iran's missile technology isn't able necessarily to deliver that kind of pinpoint attack. So we have a dozen or so missiles being fired at two obvious military targets here, absolutely. But remember, the US military on a very high state of alert with very significant and sophisticated anti-missile systems, some of which may have been in fact already this morning. So the calculation by Iran's leaders must either have been not particularly well able to grasp what the missiles were actually able to do, or possibly thinking that if they fired in the middle of the night like this, it might make the loud bang, the loud sort of statement of military force that they wanted to, but then not necessarily kill enough Americans to engender a US response. There is something degree from this, a rant maybe, that Iran gets to say, our bit, America did its bit, and then everybody moves on to something else tomorrow. But it's so hard to necessarily predict quite how the Trump administration will react to something like this. It does appear to have crossed their red lines, certainly in terms of attacks against US interests. But you have to also look at this in terms of how this makes Iran look in the region. They were making a lot of noise about forcing the United States out. Their supreme leader has been reported to have suggested he wanted to see an Iranian military attack against the US military. Well, he's got that, but it didn't occur in any way which thus far appears to have been that effective. And many, when they heard that, thought it was the strangest way for Iran to respond, frankly, because an out-out military confrontation between Tehran and Washington, well, only the Pentagon, frankly, would win in that. Everybody assessed it was more likely they would use their different proxies, allies, asymmetrical warfare, other ways of harming the United States if they chose to do that, Chris.
Right. The Ayatollah, of course, Khamenei, had called for it to come from mainline Iranian military. That's what seems to have happened here, according to the intelligence reports, and they're good at that. They saw them setting them up. They tracked them all the way through. So we'll see what comes next. Nick, very interesting observations, and I appreciate you for them. Stay safe where you are. Nick Payton-Walsh, thank you. All right, now let's go to Ramin Mostahim in Tehran. Thank you for joining me, sir. First, what do you make of this notion that maybe Iran's plan was to make a show of force, show that they could have done even worse, but not cause a lot of deadly impact? Do you believe that they have that kind of sensitive capability, and do they have that kind of sensitivity?
Yes, actually, they have already said that and made the point that, okay, just we want to have a tit for tat. And if we do our tit, then the game is over, and that will be the end of the game of violations. And Iran said that we will have a harsh response, if you like, and then after harsh response, we want, we are sure that peace will prevail and everything will be okay. So actually, from early morning, we can see the video of jubilation sometimes, run by IRGC, show that people are happy for the victory. That victory means the victory for peace and to end the war or to de-escalate. So from their point of view, the narrative is that we did our tit for tat, and tit for tat game is over.
Well, that would be great. But let's just take one more step down this road of analysis, because if Soleimani meant as much to the Iranian governing structure and culturally as is suggested by the displays of memorial and what has been said by the leadership, how is sending bombs, assuming they had this capability and this intentionality to come close but not really hurt anybody, which is somewhat hard to believe, how is that an appropriate response to losing your number two? Not that I wish anything worse, but why would that appease people within the hard line?
Appease people because people don't like war, and although they are angry and they show their anger in the rally when they went to pay respect for Qasem Soleimani as their own beloved commander. But it doesn't mean that they love war and they want to see the war all out war on America. That is also, the least things that they wish, and that's the way that the war is not solved here. Completely over and over. There won't be a war, there won't be a negotiation either. So the top leadership in Iran doesn't want to seek war. I said, I reiterated over and over. And at the same time, to appease people, they have already appeased people and used the blood, what they call the blood of their beloved commander, to unify the country, to unify a divided society. So actually, Qasem Soleimani's blood has served the purposes of the ruling theocracy. So what they want, nothing more. And now the harsh response, according to their narrative, has happened. Right. So let's go back to our daily routine.
Well, I appreciate that perspective, and I hope it's accurate. That would be great if this is the end of the violence and we can move on to something else. Now, a bizarre event that happened tonight that we don't believe had anything to do with hostilities between Iran and the United States. But what a bizarre twist. After the missile bombing, this video comes out locally of a Boeing 737, 180 passengers on board, crashing just after taking off from Tehran. Preliminary reports there suggest that the plane was en route to Kiev, Ukraine. Obviously a big player in American politics. The word, I understand it, please you tell me, from Tehran is this was not anything to do with any kind of retaliation. This was a mechanical problem with the plane. But what a bizarre thing to happen on this night.
Yes, it is the worst scenario that, could happen. This is catastrophe. In terms of human casualties. And people are shocked. And unfortunately, it was not top news because the top news was harsh response to American base in Iraq, Ain al-Assad base. So it was ignored almost because the top news overshadowed anything else. But actually, the representative and the head of the Iran Navigation Organization confirmed that yes, there is no chance, almost zero chance for any survival, and all on board died. And now they are collecting anything they can just to and to find out what's going on, what happened, and they are looking for the black box to understand, to investigate further. But yes, it was very, very bad catastrophe in a very, unrightful time. And it was a tragedy that, of course, is not rare in this part of the country, especially for Ukrainian and Russian planes, but it is a catastrophe. And no, unfortunately, nobody survived now.
180 lives lost on a night where we've been watching for loss of life. Yeah. Ramin Mostahim, thank you so much for your perspective on what is going on there, what may happen next, and to just share this bizarre circumstance that cost so much life tonight, unrelated to what we've been following. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to hear later on Wednesday morning from the president. That's what we're told. The question is, what are we going to hear from him? But more importantly, what will we hear from Congress? I had one of the top Republicans in charge of our security on tonight, and he said he doesn't think the president has to consult with Congress about any of this. Now, can that be? Can that be consensus in Congress? Have they learned nothing from what's happened over the last few days? We'll bring in a House Armed Services Committee member next.
Step into the open wide. Watch the future come alive. Meet the first ever Mazda CX-30. Feel alive.
As Julie's work monster, I couldn't wait for her 50th birthday. But instead of worrying, she drinks palm for antioxidants. I thought we had more girls' nights reading the internet about diseases we could have. Don't even get me started on her sex life. It's perfect!
Are you okay?
Oh, it's just a cold. It's not just a cold if you have high blood pressure. Most cold medicines may raise blood pressure. Coricidin HBP is the #1 brand that gives powerful cold relief without raising your blood pressure.
Country roads, There's a booking for every resolution. Book yours at any price at booking.com.
Obamacare is a complete and total disaster. Let Obamacare implode.
These wild attacks on healthcare hurt the patients they care for. I've been a nurse in New York for 30 years. I know the difference leadership can make because I saw what Mike Bloomberg did as mayor.
Mayor Bloomberg helped lower the number of uninsured by 40%, covering 700,000 more New Yorkers. Life expectancy increased. He helped expand health coverage to 200,000 more kids and upgraded pediatric care. Infant mortality rates dropped to record lows. And as mayor, Mike Bloomberg always championed reproductive health for women.
So when you hear Mike Bloomberg on healthcare,
This is America. We can certainly afford to make sure that everybody that needs to see a doctor can see a doctor. Everybody that needs medicines to stay healthy can get those medicines.
you should know, he did it as mayor, he'll get it done as president.
I'm Mike Bloomberg, and I approve this message.
I feel like I'm losing my identity.
Business cards, new logo, outdoor sign.
You always get me.
This week, buy 1 HP ink, get 30% off at Office Depot Office Max and OfficeDepot.com.
When you're looking to hire, you can find just the right person on Indeed. Indeed gives you tools like online skills tests, which help a candidate show they are the right hire. We'll also give you this groundhog that will come out when the right candidate appears.
Great, you got the job.
Okay, there's no groundhog, but skills tests for sure. Try skills tests free when you post your job at Indeed.com/groundhog.
It's not too late to start your New Year's resolution to look and feel better. If you're searching for a lower carb way to lose weight, then the Keto 30 Challenge could be perfect for you.
Keto Logic's Keto 30 Challenge is just 4 easy steps. Start your day with a keto meal shake. Eat 2 low-carb meals. Drink a refreshing and energizing keto BHB and get moving.
I never felt better. This is the first program that's worked for me.
Start your keto journey today with Keto Logic's Keto 30 Challenge.
Excuse me. Mind being remote tour?
What could be better than being a motor? The real question is, do you mind not being a motor? I do. And for those who were born to ride, there's Progressive.
The president tweeted that, quote, all is well after Iran launched more than a dozen missiles at 2 Iraqi bases that hold U.S. troops. And the reason that he has any basis to say that is because so far, no report of any casualties. Let's get some reaction from a member of the House, California Democrat John Garamendi. It's good to have you back on Primetime.
Always good, Chris.
So, very interesting. The state of play now, Iran launched its missiles, whether it was in any way intentional or just incompetence. At this point, it doesn't seem they spilled any American blood. Now, that would still cross the red line the president set in a tweet. Do you see that as a real guideline, or do you think there is an actual window to let hostilities pass now?
I think there's a word that has been said by the Secretary of Defense, Esper, and a similar word in a tweet from the Foreign Minister of Iran, and that word is de-escalate. It appears as though both sides want to de-escalate. That is excellent, wonderful, terrific news. If there is a tit for tat or a retaliation now on the part of the United States, then that de-escalation won't take place. It's time for everybody to stop for a moment, take a deep breath, let this thing de-escalate, and see if we can get back to where we were prior to the rocket attacks and to the rocket attacks that killed the American and then the killing the Soleimani. So if it doesn't happen that way, Chris, then it is not an issue of the Americans defending themselves from an attack. It is an attack by America into Iran, and that is the requirement for Congress to pass a resolution and act of war, which we must do before the president takes any other steps.
Well, let me ask you something about that, Congressman, because if we go back to where we were before tonight, That's with Congress being boxed out of any discussion about what the president was doing, ostensibly under the guideline of imminent threat that the Secretary of State nor any other member of the administration, including the president, has been able to explain to anybody's satisfaction except the most diehard supporters. Isn't that your job already? Isn't this yet another example of Congress abdicating its power to provide statutory or declaratory powers to a president?
Depends upon the word imminent. And we can dance around that word or try to number the angels dancing on the head of a pin. But the reality is that the president does have the power to protect Americans, military and otherwise, from an imminent threat. Now, where we are today is that there is no apparent imminent threat if, in fact, Iran is sending a signal that it doesn't intend to do more, that it intends to de-escalate. And the next move is up to the United States.
No, he could just as easily argue, Congressman, that now he really doesn't need it because they were just bombed. So if he wants to do something, he's got a justification.
I think not, because that is then moving into an ongoing war situation, not an imminent threat of an attack, but rather a full-blown let's go to war. In which case, it is up to Congress to take that, and it's up really the responsibility of the president to come before Congress and in a joint session say, we need to attack or continue to attack Iran so that they don't do this or that to us.
So you think anything further would require Congress, but you don't think taking out Soleimani required Congress?
I think that, yes, Congress should have been notified ahead of time. However, I don't see much use in debating the word imminent at this point. Going forward, there is, as we know it today, no imminent threat of an attack. Clearly, Iran signaled that it was going to attack. We knew that those missiles were being ready. If we wanted to deal with an imminent attack, we could have attacked those missiles before they were launched. Now, if we see a situation in which all the missiles are being rolled out, getting ready to fire, or some are fired and others might yet be fired, then yes, we do have an imminent attack. But we're in a situation now where it's up to the president to make a decision. De-escalate. If he intends to escalate this, then, in my view, he must come to Congress and ask for a declaration of war. And then it's up to us to say yes or no, depending upon the argument and the circumstances. Now, from my point of view, there is no declaration of war that is justified, nor is there an imminent attack that we know of at this moment.
Congressman John Garamendi, I appreciate your perspective very much on it. Very important. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, now this is the foreign policy test that may define this administration. He threatened a disproportionate military response if Iran attacked again, and now it has. This isn't about baiting the president. This is about holding his words up to scrutiny. Two State Department veterans are here to help understand where things could go, what that tweet should mean or not mean. Next.
I can. The two words whispered at the start of every race. Every new job. And attempt to parallel park. Each new draft of every novel. The finishing touch on every masterpiece. It is humanity's official two-word war cry. Words that move us all forward. The same two words that Capital Group believes have the power to improve lives, and that for over 85 years have inspired us to help people achieve their financial goals. Talk to your advisor or consultant for investment risks and information.
I gotta say, I need a break, and I've been thinking about the weekend. I've been dreaming about it all day. I get it all, I get it now. Everybody say, oh my, oh my, yeah, oh my.
everything your trip needs for everyone you love. Expedia. It's always a 3-day weekend at Golden Corral, featuring Fish Fry Fridays, Prime Rib Saturdays, and Carb Race Sundays. 3 premium nights all year long. You can't beat 3-day weekends at Golden Corral, the only one for everyone. Most jeans are made for average bodies, but there's no such thing as an average person. M. Taylor takes 7 measurements right on your phone for perfectly fitted custom jeans. And getting measured only takes 15 seconds. Get your free measurement report with M. Taylor. Learn your true waist and inseam size, and your neck and sleeve size. You can get your free report today. And if you don't like your clothes for any reason, shipping and returns are always free. Download M. Taylor on iOS or Android now.
15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Everybody knows that.
Wow. Did you know Pinocchio was a bad motivational speaker?
I look around this room and I see nothing but untapped potential. You have potential. You have. Oh boy.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
The last debate before the first vote is only on CNN. The top Democrats, live from Iowa. The CNN Democratic Presidential Debate in partnership with the Des Moines Register. Next Tuesday at 9. Only on CNN.
Let's be honest. Every insurance company says they can save you these. In fact, if you had $1 for every time they said it, you'd have a lot of dollars. Which makes it hard to believe, especially coming from a talking lizard. Cheerio. Look, all I think that is great is that insurance is built to save you dollars without skimping on service. And when they save, you save. You only need to know how much is going to flow. Chances are you'll save time, paperwork, yes, dollars. When insurance is affordable, it's surprisingly painless.
Sometimes your small screen is your big screen. And with the Xfinity Stream app, which is free with your service, you can take a spin through on-demand shows or stream live TV. Download your DVR shows and movies on the fly. Even record from right where you are. Whether you're traveling around the country or around the house, keep what you watch with you. Download the Xfinity Stream app and watch all the shows you love.
This is CNN, the most trusted name in news.
Look, we don't want to be overly optimistic in this situation, because it does seem at this point that Iran sees the missile launches that it did today and this evening as retaliation, as this is it. That seems to be the message from the Iranian foreign minister. And so far as we know, now that daylight comes in the Middle East and they can do a better assessment in the U.S. bases, there are no casualties to report at this point. As I said, Iran's foreign minister tweeted that the attacks were concluded in what he called proportionate measures. And his country is not seeking escalation. That seems to suggest in a plain reading that they're not going to do anything else. Now, 2 questions. Does that mean that we are in a period of de-escalation? Maybe an entering of a diplomatic situation? I know that that's far-fetched. Or did they already cross a red line for this president, and now when he speaks to the country tomorrow morning, he will address that? Foreign relations experts Naira Haq and Aaron David Miller join me right now. So good to have you both. First, can you guys give me your take quickly on whether or not, do either of you believe that Iran has the capabilities to guide missiles well enough to come close, cause physical destruction, but not do maximum deadly damage, and that's what they did with these bombings? Do either of you believe they have the capability and that was their intention? Naira, do you believe that?
I think they had an opportunity to be more targeted if they wanted, or to, frankly, they could have hit civilian sites, right? So they knew that they were targeting bases. Our military personnel had enough opportunity to seek safe haven. So I think they could have been much worse. If what they were looking for was shock and awe, it would not be an essentially empty military base.
ADM?
I think that's right. They had intel on Al-Assad base. They clearly knew that we would detect well before launch, so there was ample time to clear out personnel. But when you launch 12 short-range ballistic missiles at 300 miles, I mean, I'm not sure. We're not talking about precision guided munitions. So there was some risk there. But I think they tried to thread the needle, Chris, and I think they've given the United States an opportunity now to respond in kind.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think you have to be skeptical. We're not used to Iran having benign intentions like that. But the good news is they missed one way or another. So ADM, let me stay with you on this point. This window for de-escalation, the president tweeted, "You do anything, you cross the line and I'm coming big time." Do you think that might just be dismissed as more, Trump talk and there could be a better plan?
Usually presidential credibility is measured by you mean what you say what you mean. And the gap between rhetoric and the failing to act is a measure of the absence of credibility. Here, you have a president whose rhetoric is way out in front usually with respect to his capacity to act. I think we need a prudent and wise commander-in-chief who's ready to acknowledge that there is space here, at least for this round to deconflict. And I suspect he'll play the statesman. I'm hoping within the next 48 hours.
Well, Naira, on that score, what we have going for us with this president is not a fan of these kinds of moves. I mean, it was a little shocking that he did something this provocative when he's criticized any move that's anything like it in presidents past of both parties.
Listen, he did run on bringing an end to foreign wars and drawing back troops from the Middle East. So ostensibly starting a war, a ground war, conventional warfare with Iran, which go against his campaign promises and frankly, what the majority of Americans are looking for right now. With that said, he's got itchy Twitter fingers, he's got a thin skin. So Iran coming at him hard and strong with their rhetoric clearly got under his skin. And I think, listen, he was trying to be responsive to the fact that a U.S. contractor was killed, that Iran does have a broad network of terrorist activities. Clearly, this was an escalation in the United States making itself heard. But what the Iranians have responded with is, all right, we've heard your message. We are now giving our public a reason to stand strong and save face with our public. But I thought it was very important that the foreign minister said that these concluded proportionate strikes. So that the conclusion and the proportionate means that is our response. We're not looking to escalate further. There is an opportunity now and a window for diplomacy if the president of the United States chooses that path forward.
Pompeo says, Naira, you can't believe this foreign minister. That he's BS and he lies all the time. Can he be taken as a word of authority in that administration, or do you have to wait for the supreme leader?
Yeah, he is a very seasoned diplomat, and he certainly knows how to work with European allies and decades of American diplomats prior to this administration. I would say that of the two, Secretary Pompeo has been the one to be more bellicose in his rhetoric, to be more antagonistic over this past weekend. So I'd be curious to see how our nation's lead diplomat changes tone. I mean, frankly, the Department of Defense Secretary Esper was far more reserved in his comments today when he said that we are looking to de-escalate. We're not looking to start a war. We're looking to end it. I think that's the type of rhetoric we need to hear going forward, and hopefully we hear that from the President of the United States.
ADM, I've always made no secret of the fact that I lean on you heavily for perspective on and off camera and how to make sense of these situations for the audience. In terms of electability and what this can mean, what is a calculus from your experience working with both types of administrations that this president should keep in mind about what Iran could represent?
I think it's like dancing with a bear, Chris. And the only problem is you can't let go. And the reality is we're going to go back to a competitive slog with the Iranians. Their ballistic missile programs will continue. They'll continue to ramp up within certain parameters, their nuclear capacity. And their aspirations for regional influence are going to continue. And we're going to have a choice to make. We cannot bring this regime down. I think that's foolish. Economic sanctions will not make the Iranians bend to the president's will. You've seen what happened when we launch into some sort of kinetic activity with them. I mean, have we preempted those missile strikes? Or if the president decided to retaliate against Iran, they could conceivably launch against Haifa and Dubai. I mean, the magnitude of this is quite remarkable. We may get a deconfliction channel out of this. I doubt it, but the notion that the Supreme Leader, Rouhani, the President, are going to come together in some sort of effort to find common ground, I think is going to have to wait. And the Iranians may well wait, Chris, until they see the results of the November election.
The real risk is if they decide to do something else close to the election to have more maximum effect. But as we all know, I'm out of time, but we'll hear from the president tomorrow morning. We have to listen for his own perception of how this played. Was this a win for him? Did he come out on top of this? That seems to be his understanding and the understanding of those around him. That's the best sign that it's over, at least for now. Naira, thank you so much. ADM, as always, appreciate it, especially at night. Thank you. Appreciate it. Iran now threatening to strike back inside our borders. But there's a huge if on that. They were saying that as if you come at Iran, we will target these other places, and we are thinking about inside the United States as well. Does that still stand now? What does that mean here? How would they even do that here? We're going to ask Andrew McCabe about the risk, the readiness, our part here at home. Next.
The last debate before the first vote is only on CNN. The top Democrats, live from Iowa. The CNN Democratic Presidential Debate in partnership with the Des Moines Register. Next Tuesday at 9, only on CNN.
I can. The two words whispered at the start of every race. Every new job. And attempt to parallel park. Each new draft of every novel. The finishing touch on every masterpiece. It is humanity's official two-word war cry. Words that move us all forward. The same two words that Capital Group believes have the power to improve lives, and that for over 85 years have inspired us to help people achieve their financial goals. Talk to your advisor or consultant for investment risks and information.
Motor? Nope.
Not motor?
It's pronounced motor. They're those who were born to ride. There's Progressive.
If you listen to the political debate in this country, it sounds like we have a failed society. But nothing could be further from the truth. Americans are compassionate and hardworking. We aren't failing. Our politicians are failing. That's why I'm running for president, to end the corporate takeover of government and give more power to the American people. That's how we'll win healthcare, fair wages, and clean air and water as a right. I'm Tom Steyer, and I approve this message.
One who makes you older, and one who makes you small, and the ones that mother keeps you don't do anything at all.
Welcome aboard. For a limited time, enjoy saving and free drinks during Celebrity Cruises Sail Beyond event.
The impeachment. Stay updated, stay informed with up-to-the-minute breaking news and analysis. There's only one place for it all. CNN.com/impeachment.
You recall, long ago, we would walk on the sidewalk. All around the windows, we would only hold on to let go. Lower kids, into the sun, we need someone to lean on. Lower kids, into the sun, now we need somebody to lean on. All we need is someone to lean on.
Picture this. You're relaxing at home. Suddenly you hear a noise. Someone's breaking in. It's really scary. I know it's happened to me. I'm Regina Munchie, and I hope nothing like this ever happens to you.
I'm Scott Munchie, and this is why I believe so strongly in helping innocent victims of bad security in our partners, businesses, and partners. Call them.
Munchie and Associates, The Hammer, 678 injured. The CNN Democratic Presidential Debate, next Tuesday at 9, only on CNN.
So shortly after Iran launched its attacks, its elite military wing, known as the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, or IRGC, also threatened to attack inside America. However, there was an if. If it said the U.S. responds. Now, just how big a threat does Iran mean to our homeland, and how ready are we for it? Andrew McCabe is here. Thank you very much, especially burning the midnight oil, literally. Now, obviously, we're very sensitive to our U.S. fighting men and women and our allies abroad, especially with more being sent to the region, so many there. That seems to have been an escape for us so far tonight. There's going to be sensitivity to anything happening here. The idea of an actual attack, how realistic?
I think it's very realistic. I think it's something that all intelligence and law enforcement agents who are focused on protecting the homeland have to be thinking about the potential threat from IRGC operatives and also Hezbollah operatives. As you know, Chris, Hezbollah is the terrorist organization from Lebanon that was essentially created by the IRGC in the early 1980s for the purpose of perpetuating Iranian-driven terrorist activity around the globe, primarily directed at Americans and Israelis.
So the idea of the foreign minister saying, this was proportionate, we're good, we don't want any more escalation. Is he to be trusted? And does that mean what it sounds like, which is that that isn't as big a threat?
You know, we can certainly hope that he means what he says, and that would be a logical calculation. If Iran is trying to avoid an overwhelming U.S. response, maybe they take the step they took this evening and maybe just call it even at that. However, because we know that the IRGC has looked at staging terrorist operations in the United States in the past, we also know that they, through their Hezbollah proxies, have prepared for eventualities like this for many, many years, stockpiling explosives around the globe, sending covert operatives to foreign countries, including the United States, to put together intelligence packages, targeting packages, things like that, stockpiling explosives. We have to be very concerned about whether or not Iran and Hezbollah maintain that capacity in the United States today.
Now, obviously, when we think attack, our mind immediately goes to bloodshed, and rightly so, given what we've experienced. But it seems that the biggest threat these days is cyber, and Iran is not often spoken about, in the regular dialogue in the media, but they are known to have extraordinary capabilities in that regard. Is that true?
Very true. You know, that is probably the bigger threat, if you consider bigger being most common. Iran targets and attacks us through the cyber realm every single day. They've been doing it since as early as 2011, when they staged the massive denial of service attacks on our financial institutions. They've developed into using malware like viruses, like the Shamoon virus that they used against Saudi Aramco in 2012. That basically destroyed Saudi Aramco's computing capability and all the data that went along with it. So they're very adept. They have diversified over the years, and I think they are certainly one of the cyber threats that we need to think about most frequently.
What could that look like?
You know, it could look like the attack that the infiltration attack that they staged on the dam in Rye Brook, New York, a few years ago, where they actually got into the industrial control system. So the electronic system that controls the workings of the dam. So that tells us they're thinking about infrastructure. They're thinking about the capability of incapacitating infrastructure here in the United States. That's a big concern. And then the standard attacks that we see in terms of attacking institutions, destroying computing capability, stealing and destroying data. They could shut down entire sectors of industries and inflicting economic damage on our private sector.
And of course, we've given the world a great example of how effective messing with our election can be, and how it can divide us along party lines and a lot of other lines. Yeah. Andrew McCabe, thank you very much for the perspective on the continuing threat going forward, what it could mean here at home. Appreciate it. You got it. All right, so at the moment, we are fortunate not to have any reports of American casualties. Now, I'm always slow on these types of assessments. There is now daylight in the Middle East, in Iraq, where these two bombings took place. So it's easier for them to assess it. But there have been different waves of it, and so far there have been no reports of casualties. That is really important in terms of controlling what happens next. You have to believe it would be much more difficult for this president in particular to resist the voices around him saying what looks strong and what looks weak if there were American blood shed. So, how do our military and the commander-in-chief respond now if it stays this way with no casualties? Two of our specialists on all things armed forces. Next.
I thought I was managing my moderate to severe Crohn's disease. Then I realized something was missing. Me. My symptoms were keeping me from being there. So I talked to my doctor and learned Humira is for people who still have symptoms of Crohn's disease after trying other medications. And the majority of people on Humira saw significant symptom relief, and many achieve remission in as little as 4 weeks.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal infections and cancers, including lymphoma, have happened, as have blood, liver, and nervous system problems, serious allergic reactions, and new or worsening heart failure. Before treatment, get tested for TB. Tell your doctor if you've been to areas where certain fungal infections are common, and if you've had TB, hepatitis B, are prone to infections, or have flu-like symptoms or sores. Don't start Humira if you have an infection.
Be there for you and them. Ask your gastroenterologist about Humira. With Humira, remission is possible.
When you're looking to hire, you can find just the right person on Indeed. Indeed gives you tools like online skills tests, which help a candidate show they are the right hire. We'll also give you this groundhog that will come out when the right candidate appears.
Great. You got the job.
Okay, there's no groundhog, but skills tests for sure. Try skills tests free when you post your job at Indeed.com/groundhog.
Obamacare is a complete and total disaster. Let Obamacare implode.
These wild attacks on healthcare hurt the patients they care for. I've been a nurse in New York for 30 years. I know the difference leadership can make because I saw what Mike Bloomberg did as mayor.
Mayor Bloomberg helped lower the number of uninsured by 40%, covering 700,000 more New Yorkers. Life expectancy increased. He helped expand health coverage to 200,000 more kids and upgraded pediatric care. Infant mortality rates dropped to record lows. And as mayor, Mike Bloomberg always championed reproductive health for women.
So when you hear Mike Bloomberg on healthcare,
This is America. We can certainly afford to make sure that everybody that needs to see a doctor can see a doctor. Everybody that needs medicines to stay healthy can get those medicines.
you should know he did it as mayor. He'll get it done as president.
I'm Mike Bloomberg, and I approve this message.
The last debate before the first vote is only on CNN. The top Democrats, live from Iowa. The CNN Democratic Presidential Debate in partnership with the Des Moines Register. Next Tuesday at 9, only on CNN.
Doing the things we love can be painful. Aspirin's triple effect provides targeted relief. Works in minutes, lasts for hours. What hurts? Aspirin works.
Attention cancer victims who use the weed killer Roundup. A federal jury unanimously found that Monsanto's popular weed killer Roundup was a substantial factor in causing cancer. You may be entitled to substantial compensation. If you or someone you love used Roundup and were diagnosed with cancer, call the number on your screen now. Don't wait. There may be time deadlines to file a claim. Call 800-837-1182. That's 800-837-1182.
Blue Land gives you reusable bottles and tablets that turn tap water into a powerful cleaning solution. So plastic waste is a thing of the past. And our proven formulas clean more effectively than the leading brands. Get a free refill with your kit at blueland.com.
I'm Arwa Damon in Baghdad, and this is CNN. Closed captioning is brought to you by Keto Logic. Kickstart your weight loss journey with the Keto 30 Challenge.
It's not too late to start your New Year's resolution to look and feel better. Start your keto journey today with Keto Logic's Keto 30 Challenge.
All right, the sun is up on a new day in Iraq in more than one way. Since the fall of Saddam Hussein, U.S. forces have been fighting terror cells, proxy forces all along. An attack by a sovereign nation, that changes the calculation. So let's bring in retired Rear Admiral John Kirby and Paul Rykoff for where things stand right now. Thank you both. PJ. So whether it was intentional or whatever, or we got lucky, no reports of U.S. casualties, God willing. It stays that way. What does this mean to you in terms of a way forward?
It's good news for now. You always hope for the best, but you plan for the worst. It looks like we have a pause right now, but tomorrow's a new day and anything can happen. I think it's important to know these air bases get rocket attacks all the time. They don't get ballistic missile attacks. This is a whole new level, but they're in a dangerous place. I think everybody in the military is wondering what happens next. If this does escalate, the president can't bring the tensions down. We could see more troops to the Middle East, more call-ups like the 82nd Airborne and the 173rd, and we could see mobilization of National Guard, reserve troops in support, but also here at home, guarding our trains and subways. So I think across the military, everyone's still cautious, waiting to see what's next, and they're prepared for anything.
John, so the idea of what the foreign minister for Iran said, put out a tweet saying basically, okay, we're good. You know, this was proportionate, no more. Is he to be trusted? Secretary of State Pompeo says no.
I have to agree with the secretary. I mean, I think it's an encouraging sign, that tweet from Zarif. I think they are trying to signal, at least it appears they're trying to signal that they're not interested in taking this any further. But look, Iran has internal divisions itself. The government is divided. The elected government is often at odds with the supreme leader, who is in charge of the Quds Force and the Revolutionary Guard. So it's not also monolithic there, and it is entirely possible that militias or even the Revolutionary Guard could take action that are uncoordinated. Not to mention, even if it was monolithic, I think we need to be cautious here to see what the next step is by Iran, to see if this really is the end. And I suspect that military leaders in the Pentagon are counseling that to the president right now. Let's just take a little pause here and see what happens next before we have to make any major decisions.
Well, Pompeo and co were the same guys that was pushing this president to go after Soleimani for some time, reportedly. And then we got word out of the White House directly from the president tonight, by tweet, of course, where he seemed to be where you are, John, saying like, all right, it's time. And a senior administration source said it's a time for patience. So, BJ, that's tonight. He also said, our president said, if you do anything, Iran, that's a red line. I don't know why he said red line. I don't know why he said that, but they certainly crossed it by any definition, even though they missed, right? So what do you do if you're him? Does he have to honor his word, or is this a great opportunity for him to say, well, I said that, but now I'm saying this?
I'm not going to get in the dangerous business of predicting what Donald Trump's going to do. We don't know. He's unpredictable, and that's part of the challenge. We don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. His attitude could completely change. But tonight, he did de-escalate. He wasn't firing away on Twitter. He didn't do an inflammatory press conference. It seems to be both sides are bringing the tensions down, and that's ultimately what the world needs.
Some more in. This guy wants to get out of the region. He says he's bringing people home. He's taking them out of Syria. Everybody yells at him and says things are going to get worse there, and they do. And now he sends them in here into the region.
Yeah, again, I'm not going to try to explain it. I mean, I've called him President Mayhem in the past because it's like following mayhem all the time. And frequently, we've seen the military try to catch up to its tweets. If it's been this action, or it was the trans ban, or it was the abandonment of the Kurds, often his tweets and his words are way ahead of where our military, our government, and our people could be. So at a time like this, we do need that restraint, and we need to prepare for the worst course of action. That also includes things like the VA. Nobody's asking the Secretary of the Veterans Affairs Department if he's ready for an increase in Iran. What do we do if we have to activate National Guardsmen in places like the TSA? Right? The TSA talks proudly about how many veterans and military folks, National Guard reservists, work at the TSA. What if they get deployed? How are we going to backfill all those people on airports? These are the kinds of scenario planning that goes on at the Pentagon. We hope goes on in the political judgment as well, because the cascading effects are enormous. That's what we're so concerned about, not just in Iran, but throughout the Middle East and in places like Kenya, where we lost an American soldier just this weekend, and most of America's forgotten about that.
John, the president had signaled earlier on that he didn't even need an exit strategy when it comes to Iran. We all know that this is not his area of expertise. He doesn't have experience in the military. Yes, he said he's better than all the generals, but again, you got to just take that with a grain of salt. He is going to be very susceptible to the voices around him. Which way do they take him?
Yeah, I don't know. I was worried about that earlier, Chris. I was thinking this through. He had shown restraint tonight, and that's welcome news. It looks like he is going to take his time here to make a decision. We don't know what he's going to say tomorrow. But I was worried earlier, the hawks, particularly perhaps some hawks from Fox News who do have influence on him, if they hit at this decision, if they criticize him for this restraint, will he change?